even if that influenced the decision, what are you going to do? Are you going to negate every law that was passed during those 4 years? Are you going to negate, like, how do you get the money back that you spent on, like the government has spent on it? You're not going to do that. So why are we spending so much time with this? Figure out if it's true or not, and then how to fix it going forward. Right? I think that's the thing to do. A series of texts and internal correspondence from Carlson, as well as other hosts, proved critical to Dominion's scathing defamation case against Fox over Trump's insistence the 22 election was stolen from him. I'm not sure that Trump is going to get. He wanted to run in the next presidential election with him being arrested. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm sure the current President Biden would love for the Republicans to endorse Trump to run, because that just basically means that he's going to win again. Now ousted from his Fox primetime perch, Carlson is facing another lawsuit from a former producer of his own show who claimed that the ex-host, his now also fired executive producer and others on the show, alleged engaged in sexist and anti-Semitic remarks, as well as, well, again, that's got to be proven in court. Previously claiming she was coached and manipulated by Fox lawyers as to what to say in the Dominion matter, blah, 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 continuing on. No shorter of arenas to share his thoughts. Yeah. Well, good luck there. I mean, you certainly, when you put yourself out there in that type of a scenario, you set yourself up for it, right? Just to be clear, we do not advocate ever for violence against anyone. You should stand up and defend yourself, but don't seek to hate people. Tall, short, gay, straight, black, white. Just don't you be the asshole, right? Because there's assholes in each one of those groups and every group. Just don't you be the asshole in the group. What's this one? This is Brent Kulak forcing Oilers to make a tough decision about his play. So again, we're not sure who the hockey writers are, but obviously this is related to the LA Kings Oilers playoff series that we're in right now. I thought they played last night because I wasn't able to watch the game last night. I went to the Calgary Wranglers game. It's our farm team, the Calgary Flames farm team. They're in the playoffs in their series. We watched them win last night. It was awesome. Okay, so Brett Kulak was good this season, but not great. That's until his first round series against the Kings, where he has been great. The general consensus is that the defense has been driven by Bouchard, Ekholm, Kulak in the postseason, and it's not even close. Kulak was a key player down the stretch. Okay, keep going. Marcus Niemelainen got time in the NHL, was overtaken by Broberg. The Oilers committed to Kulak in the offseason, signed him to a 4-year, $2.75 AAV deal, only realizing this season that he or someone else in the defense group may very well have to be moved. Oops. Kulak playing himself out of trade talks. If neither Kulak nor Broberg moves over to the right side, Kulak could be the top trade candidate from the Oilers defense. It's a lot of cash to get rid of when you sign him in the offside. Oilers cap situation. This is going to be the problem for the Oilers as well. They just go on to talk about who's going to be restricted free agents and who's going to be unrestricted free agents at the end of next year. Free up. Kulak has 3 years left, making his 2.75 available would help, but so would a combination of CC and Yamamoto. So between those two guys, so it's about $5 million you'd free up a year. Yeah. I don't know. Make it a tough decision. I mean, it depends, I think, how well they do in the season here, right? How well they do. how deep of a run they have in the playoffs right now. I don't know how the Oilers did last night. I'm guessing that they they lost, so it's 3-3. I mean, I don't know. Let's see who goes. Move on to the next one here. Got to try to get through as many as we can. National Post. This is a left-wing group here in Canada. The news report, somewhat reputable, right? I've seen these guys before, but it's left-wing, so you just take what it is. By the way, I say the same thing about the right-wing side as well. Right? This is an opinion piece. Somewhere down here it says it's an opinion piece by Sabrina Maddox. This is usually how you tell. What does it say? Striking unions should ditch anti-millennial contract demand. Probably. Don't know what the millennial demand is, but the federal government, what's it called? Public service employees are currently striking for 10%. And I read an article yesterday about public service, public employees. The Canadians as a whole don't support them striking. While people were through COVID, people were losing jobs. No one lost their job if you work for the public, for the government, for the federal government. So when these guys are now striking for more money because of inflation, all the rest of it, and no one else got raises, people actually took a pay cut this year to offset inflation, all the rest of it. It's very difficult to get support for this, right? Anti-millennial contract demand. We'll find out what the contract demand is, but you have a job. You have a guaranteed job, more or less. You have to basically commit some sort of criminal act to not lose your job, right? I don't know. As an aside, during COVID, when the federal government was giving out it's not rebate checks, like COVID checks, keep people working, all the rest of it. There was 15 of 40 people, federal employees that took the money. Like 40 employees took the money. 15 were fired. So what happened to the other 25? I guess I don't know. All right, let's see what it says. Young Canadians have been turning away from unions for some time now. That's a bit surprising. I agree. I'm not sure that unions do what they. I'm not sure the union mentality is still needed. It still doesn't do. When young people went to work, there were no laws to protect workers. So unions pushed really hard to protect their workers. Now we have laws in place where that just doesn't fly anymore. Right? We have lots of laws to protect it. You can call up Alberta Labor, Alberta Employment Standards here. There's offices everywhere, but there's one here in Calgary. Call them up, go down to their office, talk to them, and say, "My employer is doing this, this, and this." And they'll look into it for you. You don't need to have a union to protect you at this point. So I'm not sure that unions' use is still good. Young Canadians have been turning away from unions for some time now. Overall membership rates are on the decline, and those who remain are often closer to retirement than they were on their first day in the job, which is exactly it. Young people are not signing into it. Okay, so I was saying the Public Service Alliance of Canada. There it is. That's if you're a public employee, that's what you work for. For a clue as to why, one might look at the PSAC key demands in its ongoing labor dispute with the federal government. Among them, call for any potential layoffs to be based on seniority rather than merit. Wait, what? For the ongoing labor dispute with the federal government, among them, calls for any potential layoffs to be based on seniority rather than merit. Well, typically it's like a first in, first out. First in, last out type mentality, right? So if I've been hired there and I worked for 20 years and I got 15 people that were hired behind me in the same similar position, they would all leave before I left. Right? Excuse me, that's what I understand. To be clear, seniority when it comes to unions doesn't refer to job title performance. It adheres to the last in, first out rule. Okay, that's exactly what I just said, right? Again, I'm just reading this. I don't know what this is about. I'm not reading ahead. I'll tell you what I'm reading, but that's what I just said. The most recent hired workers are the first to be let go, regardless of the quality of the work, credentials, and potential. Yeah, that's fairly standard, right? Even if you don't have a union, that's still fairly common. But the problem is that unions protect mediocrity, right? Even if you get like once you get hired on, even if you do a shitty ass job, it's really difficult to fire you, right? So this is a common union rule found in many collective agreements, but it's one that disproportionately disadvantages young workers. There's also plenty of research that indicates seniority causes clauses discriminate against females and other minorities who are more likely to have recently entered unionized roles. That's potentially it, but then you have to challenge those laws, and that could take a while to do, but you still have to do that. Right? Our laws are what they are because someone broke them, and it takes a while to go through the legal system, the court system, to enact those changes. But you have to do that. You can't just get them to change the rules. Unions are not going to do that. That's not to suggest that we endorse discrimination laws against females and other minorities. Of course not. Those two things are separated and apart from each other. And here's what I was just talking about with the mediocrity thing. Seniority clauses hurt more than individual workers, though. They also stifle productivity and innovation in workplaces, turning them into stale, lethargic environments. This can be spread through entire industries. Yeah, right. It enacts mediocrity. If you're a really good employee, you're not rewarded. If you're a really poor employee, you're not punished. It lowers and flatlines it to the same. So people don't want to try and do better. They just want to ride out the last 10 years of or the next 10 years at a good paying job where they have to do minimal work and blah blah blah, the rest of the shit that goes with it, right? Now that's a pretty broad base, and I don't mean every employer or employee is like that, but yeah. Canadian unions have never successfully found a way to balance the interests of younger and older members, or the goal of stable employment with the crucial need for businesses to continue modernizing and compete. While young people are leading high-profile unionization movements south of our border, and even become fashion icons in the process, a signal that unionization isn't merely a bureaucratic act, but culturally cool. There's been no such revitalization of Canada's labor movement by millennials or Gen Z. Chipotle, I think, in the U.S., right? They voted to unionize. So it's a Chipotle, of course, is like a fast food place, more or less, of Mexican food, tortillas, and things like that. I highly recommend it. It's delicious. I eat it when I'm in Vegas every time I go. It's right on the strip, but it's a franchise. So what's stopping the owners? Like, so you can't fire these guys, right? If they act to or move, if the employees move to start a union, you can't fire them, right? At least not for that. So you have to, again, you have to document and all the way through. Why don't you just shut business, sell it? Just so you know, we're shutting down the business here, and that's it. You have the 30 days. Do whatever you guys want, right? And just show up. As an aside, there was a business here a couple years ago that was selling tickets to it was like a steakhouse or something like that, like a pub type thing. And they were selling tickets to New Year's party, and they sold it up until the 30th, right? And at the 30th, come 3 o'clock in the morning after everyone had left, 3:30 in the morning, after all the employees left, all the staff had left, other than the owners. The owners came in, opened the door, and moved all of it out. Everything was taken out. So on the 31st, when the employees showed up at 8 o'clock to open up, there's nothing there. No, we closed. So they took all the money that people had paid, the $30 for the tickets, and left. Right? So people that paid their money, they're not getting their $30 back. People that, like these guys were thieves, they just stole the money. So this could be the same sort of thing, right? Chipotle owners, just lock the doors, right? Sell your business and take it. That's one way to deal with it, but right. This is Chipotle is not one of those businesses that would do well with a union, I don't think. but the owners are already dealing with what's called the Great Resignation, right? So, yeah. This is despite the fact that unionization rates still remain high, significantly higher in Canada than the U.S., clocking about 30% of workers. A large number of obstacles obscures a lack of choice. Unlike Europe and the U.S., union membership can be required as a condition of employment in Canada. That's correct. I have worked for unions before, and that's just is what it is. You can't get out of paying your union dues. I was forced to go on strike when they did. I said, "Screw that! I'm not. Fuck that! I'm not striking on it. I mean, I'll take the 2 weeks off, whatever it is. The union's going to pay me for 2 weeks. Get your shit figured out. At the end of the 2 weeks, I'm crossing the line and working. I'm a starving university student. I don't care about this. Yeah, but I don't care." Right? It helped the senior workers, but it didn't help me because I needed to eat. So I get it. If you want to work in Canada's larger public sector, you will find yourself a union member. That's correct. This forced unioning seems relevant when it comes to floundering actual participation rates. Only 35% of the members bother to cast a vote in the union's latest strike vote. Well, that's like any vote, any democracy. You give your powers to the people that do vote. You just forego because they just don't care, right? What do they care? Issued a written statement after the exceptionally low turnout numbers, sparking controversy, saying increasing voter turnout is an issue that all unions, organizations, and governments, big or small, grapple with, which is what I just said. 35%? That sounds about right. What is the average of voting for your country? Let's actually take a quick look at that. U.S. U.S. presidential election voter turnout. So in 2020, when Biden was elected, 254 million people showed up. So the question becomes, contrary to what Donald Trump says, how many? That's pretty high, actually. Oh yeah. Well, it's a higher turnout than normal because of that, right? Because of Trump. So let's look back in historical, right? So in 2008, 62.5% showed up. 2012, 58%. 2016, 59%. So it just barely moved. In 2020, it's the highest of these four rows that comes up with 67%. So that's pretty divisive between Trump and his politics and where he was standing. To get 67% of the population to turn out. This, of course, says it's 257 million. How many people are in the U.S.? Trump thinks that there's 350 million. The closest number is probably, the real number is probably closer to 450 million. But it's documented versus undocumented workers, right? And I understand there's lots of different nuances between those two things, but we're not going to get too far about that. Let's come to Canada. There's 46 million people in Canada. Voter turnout in the 20. Where's this one? Voter turnout. 2011, 61.5% was the third lowest in Canadian history. Rose sharply in the 2015 4-year leaders at 67.5. Yeah, obviously there was a huge divisiveness there between who would that have been Stephen Harper and Trudeau, because I think that's when he was elected. The highest turnout since 1993. Voter turnout has decreased since 2015 to 48.8% in 2019. So 49% in 2019 and 44.5% in 2021. So that's in line with what this is. The fact that there's 35%, I mean, it's right. It's very close to that. I don't know. You're going to have a tough time getting people to come out. Maybe true, by no means absolved. Doing some soul searching. Part of the reason is particularly young vote disillusionment, and then feeling that no matter what they do, the system remains rigged against them. Yeah, because it's no meaningful change ever occurs here. Demands like basing layoffs on seniority, which often translates to age, only reinforces this perception. Right? So when unions bargain over issues such as wage and telework, they're participating in the free market. However, attempting to diminish the role of merit in the workplace is a direct opposition to the free market and hurts workers in the broader economy. Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm not a big fan of Sabrina here, but she's getting this right, I think. Yeah. When it comes to public service, this hurts the government's ability to deliver good value for taxpayer dollars. Okay, so this is the part that they get wrong, right? The role of government is to deliver services, not generate a profit. That's so important. I'm going to say that again. The role of government is to deliver services, not generate a profit. So when you have a business leader like Donald Trump wanting to run the country, it's actually bad for your country because in business, it's a win-lose scenario. In government, you have to give a win-win to both sides to move forward. And Trump never did that. He's screw that. We're gonna. Canada's been screwing us on our softwood lumber issues, and there's another thing that's in there. And so we're gonna jam these guys hard, Canadians, and that just doesn't work. You try doing that to Europe as well. They just don't care, right? People put Trump at standoffish at arm's length because they don't want to deal with the U.S. And they didn't cut it, but they just kind of cut back on some of their stuff for 4 years while Trump was in office. The role of government is to deliver services, not generate a profit. When it comes to public services, it hurts the ability to deliver good value. Perhaps not coincidentally, even as we employ vastly more federal workers than ever, service levels are rarely seemed worse. Yeah, right. So, is what it is. We'll see those guys in a bit, I guess. What else we got here? Just running out of time a little bit. Football demand removed from SFU. Well, let's come back to this one. This is interesting. So Passaglia, and that's Passaglia right there. He's the oldest, or was the oldest player in the CFL. He was a kicker for the BC Lions. Cutler and other football alumni demand removal from SFU Hall of Fame. I bet you this has to do with discrimination of the indigenous populations. I bet you this is what it's going to be. Canadian Football Hall of Famers Lou Passaglia are among 11 football-only members of the Simon Fraser University, which is in Vancouver, Burnaby specifically, who are demanding they be removed from the shrine over the school's decision to cease its football program. Oh, okay, well, not quite. President announced September 4th it was discontinuing its football program effective immediately. Johnson added it wasn't a financial decision, but was based on the Texas-based Lone Star Conference's announcement it would not renew its football affiliation with Simon Fraser past the 2021 campaign. Oh. CFL Commissioner Executive all wrote letters, Sports West coaches condemning the decision. They also had that CFL be allowed to continue playing football in Canada. Okay, so I would drink my coffee. So back to business. The economic ties that we have with our neighbors are north and south, not east and west. Right? Vancouver, let's say BC, does very little trade with PEI, with the Maritimes. The Maritimes does very little trade with the West Coast provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, because it's so hard to ship shit left or right. But because Vancouver is less than an hour north of Seattle, BC does a lot of business north and south. Alberta does lots of business with California, Montana, Idaho, those sort of things. We don't do a lot of business with Florida. Right? The Maritimes Maritime provinces doesn't do a lot of business with California, but they do more so with Florida, right? Because again, the north and south. This is the same sort of thing. Um, sport is no different, right? SFU is one of the few universities that participates in both U Sport, which is university sports athletics, as well as the NCAA. I know from wrestling anyway that SFU would come and go in the conference, in the Canadian conference, but they wrestle in the U.S. all the time. SFU wrestles in the U.S. all the time. Guelph University, Brock University in St. Catharines, which is just across from Toronto. They travel to the U.S. because it's right there, like they're on the border. Right? It's Detroit, and it doesn't really matter. But that right, they just do a shit ton of business there, and it makes sense that they do it. Right? They don't just wrestle in Canada. So you can have the CFL and the commissioner, the Players Association, and the football president all related to Simon Fraser. U Sports, which is what I just talked about. Can West officials, that's a subdivision within U Sport, and football coaches condemning the decision. So what? I mean, just we don't control their league, right? They're going to do what they're going to do. You can condemn it all you want, but that doesn't change anything. I get it, I understand, but you have to do something. So I get it, I understand. 5 football players, quarterback, and they list them here, launched a lawsuit in BC Supreme Court against SFU to compel the school to reinstate its football program. To do what? To compete against Guelph? Right? That would become a financial issue, right? CFL has a shit ton of American football players in it because it's, by and large, the football players that are playing here are ones that failed to make it in the NFL. Doug Flutie was in the U.S. He played for a year professionally for an NFL team. It's my understanding anyway. He got cut. He comes to Canada. He plays in Canada for 10 years, and then he goes down to the U.S. and plays in the U.S. for 3 years, and finishes off his career. Right? Who's the other guy? There was a young kid. He was an up and comer. He was supposed to be a stud. I don't watch football, so I don't know who it is. Obviously, there was some sort of social issue. I don't know if it was drugs, if it was just mental issue. He couldn't handle it, whatever else. He was supposed to be a stud. Recruited out, played the first year in the NFL, shit the bed. Problematic, didn't lead his team, like lost. He gets more or less fired from the NFL. No one wants to pick him up. So he comes here to Canada, and the problems continued on. He played for 3 teams in 3 years. He just shit the bed. And now he's done. Right? So he played for 5 years. And last week, following a meeting between this and this, the school reiterated the team won't play the season. Had a special advisor appointed. Wednesday, the 11 only demanded they be removed in the show of solidarity with the team's players and coaches. Okay, well, it's fine. They added they'd welcome returning when the football program was reinstated after this administration cited a decision. Well, I think SFU should honor their request and take their name off of the Simon Fraser Hall of Fame. And then because these 11 players would welcome returning when the football program was reinstated, you don't add them back in there. Okay, you don't want your name up there? We'll respect that. We'll take your name down. They're not going to tell you this, but we're not going to put your name up there again. That's fine. I don't wish to be affiliated with or have my prior football career bring excellence to a university that no longer recognizes collegiate football as a worthwhile entity or endeavor for young amateur athletes throughout BC. He was inducted in, the other guy, and it goes on and on and on. My experience was formative, something I cherish. Yeah, sport does that, by the way. Sport at a high level builds character, right? For sure it is. Especially if you're going to university as well, you really learn some time management skills. So I wish those guys the best. I don't know. It's going to be. I don't think it's going to make SFU change the decision of Texas Association. So we did watch this last night, or we did hear about this last night. Again, I'm not sure who these guys are, sporting news. But while we were watching the Calgary Wranglers play, part of this comment did come up. As it turns out, Matthew Tkachuk here, Matthew Tkachuk right here, is a former Calgary Flame. He just left us last year. Bruins Linus Ullmark, Ullmark is the goaltender right here. Explains miscue that led to game-ending Matthew Tkachuk goal. I couldn't get back into position. Yeah, that's how it happens. Linus Ullmark may be the runaway favorite to win the Vezina, but he endured a tough night. A 4-3 Game 5 loss to the Panthers. So the Bruins now have to win the next two. This will be monster upset if Florida wins one of the next two games. Right? Boston, I think, only lost 12 games this year. 15 games, maybe? It's 82 games in a season. Yeah, I think they had 67 wins. Yeah, so that'll be 15. His final act of the night was arguably his worst entire season. They're tied 3-3 in overtime when an errant pass skidded into the Bruins zone. Ullmark went to play the puck behind the net while raced to get the puck. Got the puck first behind the net before he skated right behind him. The netminder then explicitly threw the pass right to the other guy. The forward intercepted it, threw it in front of the net, slid in front of the goal to deflect, but ultimately went to Tkachuk, who easily scored in the wide open net. Yeah, that's bad positioning. He didn't seem upset over this miscue. Nonetheless, it sealed the Panthers' win that cut Boston's lead to 3-2. Oh, wait. Yeah, there we go. That makes sense. I thought it was the other way. I'm like, what? I thought Boston was the lead. Boston was leading. Boston leads 3-2. Florida has to win the next two. So just bounce back. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? You should expect to be going to 7 games at this point, right? Final seasons, or in the playoffs. Florida will look, while the Panthers will look up the Bruins again to force the winner 7-take-all. Yeah. Ullmark, on and on. So it's rough. Keep going. Bruins should they are the overall favorites to win this year, right? Win the Stanley Cup, and with their season, they deserve so. All right, so here is National Post again. Jesse Klein is this is an opinion piece. Again, I don't know who this is, but Trudeau demands climate sacrifice while China burns coal with abandon. So, I mean, I've been saying this for more than a decade at this point, right? If Canada had a magic wand and could change our economy to 100% carbon free and still maintain the same level of productivity we have today, which today is arguably more than it was 10 years ago. Magic Wand makes that happen without getting countries like China and India involved or on the same page as Canada. Canada's input into the climate affectedness is minimal, like minuscule. It's less than 1%, right? And I think the most recent one I saw was like 0.5% of climate emissions are directly related to Canada. Right? You have to get the two countries that have more than 1 billion population to change how they do things. And without that, it's just for naught. Like nothing Trudeau does is helpful with this regard, other than spend money that Canadians don't have. Right? This is going to be so bad here. All right. Last week, my son announced at the dinner table at his school had turned off the lights in time to celebrate Earth Day. Right? Yeah. This is how we think we're making a difference. Turn off the light for one day. To my mind, it seemed more of a lesson in why we need electricity to power a more modern civilization. Yet the kids are apparently allowed to spend time playing computer games, which makes the overall point of the exercise hard to decipher. Right? My son, when I was in school, when he was in school, same message. Reduce, reuse, recycle. So whatever that adage is, it's the 3 C's. I'm like, son, you need to put on your paper, add rethink. But the teacher says, add that on there. because that's how you you affect change. Right? Reduce, reuse, recycle isn't going to get it done. You have to rethink how you do the stuff. Right? It's you can't have a straight line for the use of goods. The monitor, I have two monitors here. The two monitors that we have, they build it, and then we put it into a recycle landfill, or we take it to a recycling place. We don't actually know what happens to the recycling once we take it there, right? We have to know what that process is. And they should be ripping these things apart, recycling the parts, recycling some of the gold that's in there, yada, 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 right? So it becomes more of a cycle, right? Or a circle where they refurbish, right? That's how we're going to get better at this. Maybe that's the point. Canadians need to accept such incongruencies if they expect to blindly support government policies. Well, we don't blindly support, but they don't give a shit. Federal governments don't care. They're going to do whatever they're going to do anyway, because they believe it's true. But the reality is, as I said, unless China and India get on board with it, any sort of climate change policies that Canada or the U.S., frankly, come up with is not going to have. It's going to have minimal impact. The U.S. will have a much more impact because they have like 10 times the population, right? Again, we have 46 million people in Canada. The U.S. has about 460 million, contrary to what Trump says, right? So just because they're not documented doesn't mean that the 100 million people don't live there. While achieving a little more than virtual signaling about climate change, if they're going to pay for more basic amenities while China exploits the altruism of Canadians to gain an economic advantage, that's exactly right. That's China's just going to still do it, but it's not. China's not making an attack on Canada. China doesn't give a shit about Canada. Right? It's only us that think that they give a shit about us. They don't. Since coming in the office, Prime Minister Trudeau's Liberals have been almost singularly focusing on reversing the trend of Canadian governments regarding agreeing to emissions targets and never actually meeting them. Not even a global pandemic could stand in the way of Trudeau's push to negotiate more stringent international climate agreements and force the Canadian economy down a path toward net zero. Meanwhile, Canadians have been asked to sacrifice a lot. Despite imposing a carbon pricing scheme in 2019 that was ostensibly designed to incentivize industries and individuals to find ways to reduce emissions, oil and gas sector has been singled out. Well, this is Laurentianism, right? The East Ontario, Quebec against the West. We the West, Saskatchewan, Alberta, we pump a shit ton of cash into the economy and through transfer payments support a bunch in the East. Right? If you drop all that, those places are messed up. They're screwed. I don't know. Twin goals of protecting the environment and reducing the burden that climate policies placed on oil and gas could have been realized if Trudeau hadn't passed on the opportunity to sell liquefied natural gas to Germany and Japan. The problem with that would have taken years to come online. Right? We can't even get the natural gas, which Alberta and Saskatchewan make a lot of. We can't get that oil and gas to port. Let's let that sink in. We can't get the oil and gas to a port. Alberta and Saskatchewan are landlocked provinces. We have to build and send that to BC, right? So we would have had to build a pipeline, get it done within a year, and then build the port, because we could have done both at the same time, and then start shipping it to Germany. To get it east, you have to then build a pipeline heading east to the Maritimes and do the exact same thing. Quebec is going to have that go through their province. So that the fallacy of this argument that's being provided here is that the twin goals of burdening climate policy placed on the oil and gas industry could have been realized if Trudeau hadn't passed on the opportunity to sell liquefied natural gas to Germany and Japan. You can't even he's not going to agree to that in our country. Of course he's not going to do that. Preventing natural gas exploits not only fail to reduce carbon emissions, potential buyers will find other suppliers. That's true. It actually risks having the opposite effect by preventing countries from switching away from coal generators, which produce more than twice the amount. On and on and on, yada yada yada. Yeah, this isn't going to go anywhere. It's not going to do anything, right? It has nothing to do. Well, I think Jesse Klein's a little bit off on this in terms of Trudeau failed because he didn't take the opportunity to sell. That's not going to happen anyway, right? It doesn't magic wand. You just don't have a pipeline in there. All right, get me all riled up. We got three sponsors we want to talk about right now. You can see that there's the Weenie Wagon. They're a hot dog vendor business here in the city of Calgary. They're starting up their season here fairly quickly. They'll sell hot dogs throughout the summer. Reach out in the comment section and say that you're coming in town, and they'll hook you up with a sausage and a soda, so sausage and a drink. They're around different places, so you have to reach out to leave a message, and I'll pass it on to the guys, and they'll get you squared away. The other one we have there is Yuck Yucks here in Calgary. Who Cares is not here. He's an affiliate. He's got an association with Yuck Yucks. If you're coming in, leave a comment down below or in the YouTube, which will be uploaded here in a bit. And we'll try and get you, we won't try, we will get you 4 tickets. You tell us when you're coming into town, and we'll get that figured out, at least for the next couple of months. But hurry quickly, because summer's coming, and Yuck Yucks doesn't do shows in the summer months. They'll start up again in September or so. So I think you probably have another month or so. May, yeah, at least until May. We'll get figured out. And of course, you see all these commercials for PBR. I am not having a PBR right now, all the contrary to Who Cares saying I should crack one and start it up. We're working on. I'm working on trying to get sponsorship with these guys. I think it would be fantastic to get some sponsorship from PBR. We're already pumping these guys just because I like the beer, I drink the beer. It's in there. So, all right, we're out of here. I got my last little bit of my coffee here. Which is cold, but that's just the end of it. Who Cares and we will be back next week, next Tuesday and Thursday, every week from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. This is what we do. We usually have banter back and forth. Obviously, it's just me, so we don't have the opportunity to do that. I normally also stream poker in about a half hour from now. I'm not doing that today because I actually have to go pick up Who Cares from the airport. He should be landing in about 45 minutes or so, so I've got to leave here in about 15 minutes. So it'll take me that long to download and upload the information to YouTube. So you guys have a great day. Have a great afternoon. I hope to see you guys back here